Aloha, my name's Art Vento, President and CEO of the Maui Arts Cultural Center. On behalf of the MACC, it's an honor to welcome you to the 2022 Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate Commencement. The first of its kind in the state, this unique program was launched in 2021 here on Maui by the Maui Arts Cultural Center. This program celebrates the literary genius and civic engagement of young people in Hawaii. Empowering Hawaii's youth and encouraging them to share their creativity and talent is so important for the future of our community, especially in these challenging times. Through the Maui Arts Cultural Center's creation of this program, we recognize the next generation of artists and eagerly await to hear what they have to share with us today. And now, I'd like to introduce to you our Education Director, Dr. Maura Persh. Mahalo.
The arts are education. They stretch you as a human being, lift up the human spirit, and help us become better people. This is a quote said by Pundi Yaguchi, the founding chairman of the Maui Arts and Cultural Center, and it is in this spirit that I welcome you here today for the second annual commencement ceremony for the Youth Poet Laureate of the state of Hawaii. My name is Maura Persh, and I am the Education Director of the Maui Arts and Cultural Center, and I am so excited for what is ahead of us today. We have spent the past year working with students and teachers, supporting workshops, poetry sharing, and residencies in schools, and have some of the most brilliant young poets with us to share their dreams for the future of this world, reflections on the past, and what's in their hearts and minds every day. Now, to get us started, I'm going to introduce us to the hosts for the evening. Our first host is Travis Kalula'au Thompson, Travis T. He's an award-winning performer, program organizer, and poet mentor, the co-founder of You Speaks Hawaii, a director for Pacific Tongues, and a world-renowned poet and educator. Our second host, Itai Wong, is a two-time international Grand Slam champion, featured on the HBO documentary series Brave New Voices. His art has been exhibited in galleries and museums from New Zealand and across the United States from Broadway to the Bay. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Travis T. and Itai Wong.
Two Greek proverbs for my students. 1, the act of writing is the practice of immortality. 2, living or dying, our triumphs and tragedies, our mythologies in the making, and so it is that I live in a city in the middle of a sea, sort of like Atlantis. Except Honolulu is located in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, to be more specific, we haven't yet slipped into Plato's Sea, never to be seen again. We are still a city, slowly sinking into the cold, dark depths, much like the Titanic. Broadsided by a crystal meth, ice rock epidemic the size of a killer iceberg, and there aren't enough lifeboats, so our women and children get thrown overboard. Head first, falling fast from freeway overpasses into the face of oncoming traffic, and it's tragic. How nobody notices the travesty, these tragedies, the life of a little 2-year-old baby boy is forever sacrificed for the afternoon entertainment of your local neighborhood icehead, floating high like an iceberg, sitting calm over city traffic, sinking somebody's child into darkness. You see, there aren't enough lifeboats. So 2 days a week, I'll play the proverbial pebble in the pond, try my best to turn the tide. You see, I teach creative writing at a nonprofit in-community treatment program for formerly incarcerated, mostly nonviolent, adjudicated juvenile delinquent teenage felony drug offenders. I teach poetry to kids who have more kids than me. At a school where the mandatory dress code includes ankle locator bracelets, weekend plans sound like house arrests, pop quizzes resemble random piss tests, and every major exam is an oral presentation delivered in a courtroom, standing before a judge, delivering deliberations on their futures for my students. Examples of grammar come in the form of run-on sentences, then with periods or probation or out on parole. See, I try to teach my students how to wear their scars like life jackets, how to use their pens like life preservers, to let art be an outlet for the self-destructive cycle that is teenage gang violence and drug addiction, but motivating a room full of teenage felony drug offenders to write about anything, let alone their own life stories, isn't easy as it might sound. A little something like, "Hey, yo, Mr. T, cuss. I don't want to write nothing. What? You make one book. So I gotta try and answer and repair their broken and betrayed self-esteem engines by writing 2 words up on a board. I write, value yourself. Value yourself. See, your story is worth writing because your life is worth living, and any life that's worth living is worthy of a story, so value yourself. Let the world know that you are still here, despite every dark moment that's crashing your soul like a fist. Manifest your existence and speak your biography, because if you could write your own life story, maybe. You can write your own happy ending, maybe. You can be your own hero, kid, build your own lifeboat, because despite what your parole officer and your drug counselor tells you, this stinking, sinking city doesn't care whether you sink or swim, whether you live or die. When all that's left to remind the world that you will ever hear is what you leave behind, even if it's just a story locked away in a cage the size of a chest too afraid to expand. But I say, breathe this world through your nostrils, kid, and scream if you need to. Laugh if it suits you. Just use the bottomless voice of your words to be heard. Grab your pen like a life preserver. Wear your scars like a life jacket and swim like this. Stroking ink through the blank pages of your life's untold story, yet unwritten, I say swim like this. For the safety of that far distant shore, no matter how far you think it is, I say swim like this. Even if Poseidon himself should swallow this entire city to the icy abyss of his gullet, I say never let up. I say never look back. I say swim like this, so that your story will forever live on. Joining me today, coming from Keolu, Kailua, from the island of Oahu, please welcome Itai Wong.
In keeping your head above water, 3 things. 1, as a babe born in Ireland, I was taught to fear the sea. She, with all her complexity and my sister's name waved in her teeth, could swallow my ocean home in a single gulp beneath the undertow. Every hurricane, another war to kiss my shores, bore the name of my mother's mother and her mother's mother before. I fear because I know her roar. 3/4 of water atoned for a desert of lessons learned by rote. I fear because I know. We are ships, we are vessels. Every dream is a boat. We float, undulating the unknown. We are sails, billowing ambition, constantly rewritten. Rewrite the past, we write the future. I know. We are of the ocean floor, my mother's bones. 3/4 of water and a pillar of salt to call home. 2, at Agua Fria High School, we learned to love how to drown. 4 a.m. sirens, and we learned to love the sound. Learned our cold water sons and daughters how to become scholars. Make martyrs out of assessments, exit tickets, and grade markers until they learned how to drown out the sound of institutionalized oppression and systems with the intention of keeping us on the ground. We read the clouds and watched the storm form from home. But rain does not fall on one roof alone. In the safety of the sun, students like seashells on the sand raise hands cupped in silence and hear their own names in the sound of the shore. My students share themselves whole ocean open, knowing these golden moments, emboldened, knowing these moments. I am not student nor teacher, just free. Rewrite the past, we write the future. Today, I will follow the rain. I learned to speak in fluids fluently, recognize the 3/4 within me like divinity. She came to me a native tongue, first language tucked in aqueducts. I was born crying, eyes born tearing. So when I speak, said waters come. Today, I do not fear water, I become it. I mua e nā poki'i a ini I kawai awa awa, a ohe hope e hoe mai ai. Forward our core, drink the bitter waters of war. There is no turning back until our victory is secured. All right, y'all. Next up, we are going to introduce our first official Youth Poet Laureate coming from Oahu. Please give a round of applause and make some noise for Esther Chan.
Hello, my name is Esther Chan, and I'm a 10th grader at Punahou School. I'm inspired by my mom, who first taught me how to read and write, and who instilled in me a love for learning. Today, I will be reading my poem, In Essence. Truth is a fog that cascades into San Francisco, the fog that envelops the hills in a blanket of white, that cools the air and nourishes the soul. Go ahead, reach out your hand and try to touch the fog that brings life and wonder and longing and confusion. Can you feel it? It's okay if you can't. You can keep trying until the sun bursts through in all of its overwhelming brilliance and burns the fog into nothingness. Truth is a fire that brings warmth, such refreshing warmth on the days when frost grows on the windows overnight and when icicles spring from the eaves. Truth is a fire that burns. It burns, it burns, it sears your heart and your soul like a roaring flame and makes you question everything you have ever known. Truth is the fire that perches atop the lone candle on the altar, just like a maraschino cherry on a Sunday. It represents hope, peace, light, the quiet beauty within. The flame flickers incessantly in motion until a puff of air leaves behind an ember, glowing yellow, then orange, then red, and a trail of smoke that winds up and up and up until it dissipates. Truth is a pitter-patter of rain on a windowsill after the storm has passed. Rays of sunlight pierce the clouds and give you a taste of heaven. It's sweet, like honey, and melts on the tongue. Tap, tap, silence. Tap. Unpredictable yet faithful all the same. A different kind of music. Silence. Perhaps a rainbow will soon be drawn across the canvas of dull clouds in the vivid hues of nature's palette. Wait here, in silence. Listen, and perhaps you will find. Truth is a swell of the ocean, the sweet lullaby of waves on rock. How can it be so ruthless and yet so gentle, multi-dimensional? It's okay, you can lay down and close your eyes. Rest, and I will wake you when the time comes, truthfully. For truth is, and always will be, the deep blue water that falls and rises and falls again until it rises.
Our next Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate finalist is Kalihua. Her poem, entitled Ode to the Messes, dissects the beauty of chaos in the moment of creation, how imprisonment can birth enlightenment. Please, welcome Kalihua.
My name is Kalihua Fung. I am a graduate of Halau Kumana class of 2021, and I am most inspired by our late Queen Lili'uo Kalani. That is why I will be sharing this poem today, written about her. I stand in the middle of my room, crumpled up paper, pens, clothes on my floor. Life is messy sometimes. Sometimes you just have to make do with the chaos that you have. Thoughts are like race cars on a track in your head. You are always thinking of what to wear next, what to say to the boy or girl you like, what homework is due tomorrow, what pencil to use, where are your books. Life is really messy sometimes, and pretty complex. But you'll get through it. You'll make do of it. Our queen Lili'uo Kalani, held prisoner in her room. As resplendent and efficacious as she too was held amongst a mess. Used her tears as thread, her sorrow as fabric, and sewed together the most alluring creation our eyes have ever seen. A quilt birthed from messes. Her pride and love poured into the colors, the memory of her land lingering in her head always. A mess of her people in anguish. As foreign government took over, their guns labeled power and money, their bullets of hatred coated with selfishness. A mess of probably her own mind. Sorrow and melancholy, despair and desperation were each planet's probably taking up occupation in the space in her head, but also with her questions came faith and hope, optimism above all others. Tore dresses apart and curtains for fabric embedded in her quilt as the impact felt from others' egotistical actions. You see, from messes of dresses and messes of others' heads she built, she set her foundation when all else was shaking and storming her quilt. Evidence above all that if you have faith, your messes can turn into beauty, your turmoil to calm seas, your mayhem and chaos to blue skies and gentle breezes. You may not see it yet, but surely it's coming. This is an ode to messes, because from it there is redemption, from it there is creation, from there is even growth. This is an ode to messes, because from it, the most magnificent butterflies are created.
Michael Sorelli is the founder of the National Youth Poet Laureate program. He is also author of several books of poems, including The Grind. Sorelli is the executive director of Urban Word NYC and has been a National Poetry Slam finalist and was featured on the HBO series Def Poetry Jam. Please welcome Michael Sorelli.
Well, I just want to offer some words of encouragement for the poets. I couldn't imagine that when this program was started in 2008 in New York City, that would make it all the way to the state of Hawaii. But I do know that young poets always propelled the movement forward. When we had young poets speaking at City Hall, we thought we had arrived at our destination with a huge platform for young poet, and that was really just the beginning. As you saw, this past inauguration, we had a poet that was reading at the presidential inauguration, which was a dream that we could have never imagined. So young people just keep pushing it forward, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. We've been talking a lot today about culture, so I wanted to read a poem in that vein. This poem is called Brown Skin Lady. If you cut someone off from their culture, they will die. My lady can trace her long finger like a terracotta branch through history's rich cemeteries and arrive at the prophet. There is no separation of church and state when your homeland is called the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Where I'm from, we pretend that God stays out of our taxes and that culture is the alchemy that turns blood white. I am multiple selves, but I am white. I contain multitudes, but am still white. American culture is distinguished by whether you're born of old money, new money, or no money. I can trace my lineage back to my first loan. My family tree grows from a safe. It seems the most dangerous nation in the world has it right. All the ammo we drop over there, and the Muslims are not dead, as I polish off another eggplant parm. At the airport, they study my lady's passport and wonder where she has hidden the bomb. And I want to tell them, she doesn't hide the bomb. She is the bomb.
Our next Youth Poet Laureate finalist borrows ancient forms of Ars Poetica from Horace to serve us a poetry based on poems. Please welcome to the stage, Corrin.
My name is Corrin Kono, and I'm in 12th grade at Punahou School. I'm inspired by an Asian American female spoken word poet and educator named Sarah Kay. I've reread her poetry book, No Matter the Wreckage, twice each year since the 7th grade. Her poems seem to work in kismet ways, presenting the right words just when I need them. The kindness and genuineness that flow through her work inspire me to become a better poet and person every day. An abundance of commas. It is always the commas. I want you to tell me about your day, the things your hands want to hold, if you love me, with all of the commas in the world. I'll reserve alliterations for myself, for tentative titles, tattered feelings, tomorrow's lunch order. Give me a sestina for my birthday, perhaps, and I will provide the rhymes. Please omit the pentameters and think of the bedside journal as you write. I promise I'll get married in rhyme schemes, conceal them in the vows and the prenup. The blue and borrowed, the fringe and the seams, immortalized love in a champagne cup. Sometimes I think I am the metaphor, the body sunk into a tabloid, the older daughter, the peonies in the cellophane wrap, the essayist, the best friend, the Gemini. From the sestina to the pentameters, you will hear my rhymes and my love, perhaps. Am I the bedside journal or the hand as you write? Maybe I talk with too many commas. Perhaps the alliterations are getting old and the rhyme schemes are screaming and scraping, finally fleeting. I think I might be the metaphor.
A two-time Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate finalist, Elle Kensington is no stranger to the stage. She depicts her story through the perspective lenses of her patriarchs. Please welcome Kensington.
My name is Elle Kensington Ono, and I am in 10th grade at Punahou School. I am inspired by the people in my family who came before me and who paved the way for me to be my own person. Diptych, a tale of two grandfathers. Grandpa Ken. Don't ask, don't tell, meant something different in those days. They went, most of them reluctantly, like timid children on the first day of school, dread and excitement heavy as wet cement in their stomachs. They didn't want to go, but they did. They didn't have a choice. And when they came home, no one asked, and no one told. He went, my grandfather, and when he returned, he was not the same. His Okasan heard him crying at night. No one cares about us, he whispered to her. No one asked, no one told. It sounds so glamorous, flying spy planes from Long Bin, La Drang, Quezon, Dien Bien Phu. But he had to kill people. People with almond-shaped eyes just like his. People with families and hopes and dreams just like him. They haunted him, those children with his eyes. But when he returned home, no one asked, and he didn't tell. He was always joking, my grandfather, never serious. Always with a silver can in his hand, wet with condensation in the humid Hawaii air, even at 8 a.m. But there was a tarnish on his shine, like a rusty nail left too long in the rain. Past the point of useful, but still sharp, still able to do damage. His own pain remained on the inside. We didn't ask. He didn't tell. Pop-up. When he was a boy, my pop-up played sports on a continuous loop. Football, basketball, baseball, football, basketball, baseball, football, basketball, baseball. He was a golden boy on the court and on the field where the tuahine rain of Manoa shrouded his buff and blue uniform in mist. When he was grown, my pop-up coached sports on a continuous loop. Football, 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 football. He is a guru, some said, a savant. He knows this game better than most. People in Hawaii grumbled. He's taking all the Hawaiian boys away from home to play in the shadow of the Wasatch Mountains at a school that's mostly white. And then that school, the one that was mostly white, announced they are building a new sports facility. Pale-faced men in suits gathered everyone to tell them the news. We're going to build, they crowed, and we've got all the Chinamen up, lined up, ready to work. Inside, my pop-up stomach roiled. A tiny boat adrift in a massive sea. Thinking of his own grandfather, who had sailed from Canton Province all those years ago.
Teresa Siangotonu is an award-winning poet, teaching artist, mental health educator, and community leader, born and rooted in the Bay Area. Her presence in the poetry world as a queer Samoan woman and activist has granted her opportunities to perform and speak in places ranging from the White House during the Obama administration to the UN Conference on Climate Change in Paris, France. Please welcome Teresa.
Talofalava, I'm so honored to be one of the judges for this year's Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate program. Before I offer up my poem, I just wanted to offer a few words of encouragement to our young poets and say that never underestimate the sheer power of your story and how it has literally been stories that has changed everything. Whether it be our culture, our history, and all the change that we've yet to see in this world. It's stories that power us, and it all starts with our voice. And so good luck to all of our youth poets, and thank you so much for offering your stories. Here's a small part of my story that I would like to start with the words of Haunani K Trask, in which she shares that upon the survival of the Pacific depends the survival of the world. If you open up any atlas and take a look at a map of the world, almost every single one of them slices the Pacific Ocean in half. To the human eye, most maps center all land masses on Earth, creating the illusion that water can handle the butchering and be pushed to the edges of the world, as if the Pacific Ocean isn't the largest body living today, beating the loudest heart, the reason why land has a pulse in the first place, the audacity one must have to create a visual so violent as to assume that nobody comes from water, so nobody will care what you do with it. And yet, people came from land, are still coming from land, and look what was done to them. When people ask me where I'm from, they don't believe me when I say water. So instead, I tell them that home is a machete and I belong to places that don't belong to themselves anymore. Broken and butchered places that have made me a hyphen of a woman, a Samoan American that carries the weight of both colonizer and colonized, both blade and blood. California, stolen. Samoa, sliced in half, stolen. California, nestled on the western coast of the most powerful country on the planet. Samoa, an island so microscopic on a map, it's no wonder people doubt its existence. California, a state of emergency away of having the drought rid it of all its water. Samoa, a state of emergency away of becoming a saltwater cemetery if the sea levels don't stop rising. So when people ask me where I'm from, what they want is to hear me speak of land. What they want is to know where I go once I leave here. The privilege of assuming that home is just a destination and not the panic, not the constant migration that the panic gives birth to. What is it like to know that home is something that is waiting for you to return to it? What does it mean to belong to something that isn't sinking? What does it mean to belong to the very thing that is causing the flood? So many of us come from water, but when you come from water, no one believes you. Colonization keeps laughing. Global warming is grinning, all at your grief. How you mourn the loss of a home that isn't even gone yet, that no one believes you're from. How everyone is beginning to hear more about your islands, but only in the context of vacations and honeymoons, football and military life, exotic women, exotic beaches, exotic fruit, but never asks about the rest of its body, the water, the islands in them, the reasons why they're sinking. No one visualizes the Pacific Islands as actually being there. You explain and clarify and fix their incorrect pronunciation and explain till they realize just how vast your ocean is, how microscopic your islands look in them, how easy it is to miss when looking on a map of the world, excuses people make for why they did not see it before.
This is the second year Mika Hiroy has been a top 10 finalist for the title of Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate. Her poem Promises is a testament to the American dream and who it belongs to. Please welcome Mika.
My name is Mika Hiroy. I'm in 10th grade at Punahou School, and I am inspired by all the artists and writers before me who have made a difference in the world through their craft. Here's my poem, Promises. Each day, I see news broadcasts which read like dystopian fantasies, a jagged history. Lists of the dead and pictures alive with heavy sorrow, alive in the way their subjects will never again be. And among the faces whose souls were robbed, there was always one which looks like mine. My face, which looks like my mother, who came to this country when she was a girl, younger than I am now, when her mother uprooted her life of cherry blossoms, taking her family to a land balanced on the foundation of hope and promises. This land, which is built on promises, because promises are what best hide fear, because promises are what best create power. Because promises are what best clean blood off the pavement. Promises which often conceal the faces of citizens whose burgled souls flash by on the news. These faces which look almost like a mirror in which I see a reflection of our collective pain. I dream of people like me, whose bodies are pushed and pinned, pulled and pressed, the grinding grievances of people who have no choice. And when the sun rises in the morning, I promise I see beauty and not the shadows of nightfall on the sidewalk. Sidewalks where people are twisted until they can't breathe. But sidewalks are not only a place of hands in pockets, dark hair hidden in hats, and eyes on me. I've seen feet firm on the pavement. I've seen fists in the air, united and calling to freedom. I've seen roads filled corner to corner with people who I thought had no choice, who seem forever trapped beneath the layer of lies, which are what best hold a country at bay. Now I see them, us, break free and fight for what was once promised to all, but only granted to some. Instead of being beaten red, black, and blue, we fight for what we should have been born with, because we deserve it. We don't deserve to be made helpless and hiding. We fight for what we need: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, a fair chance and equal rights, love and hope and wide smiles. We promise that we will walk into the future, a future we will make ourselves, a future we will make beautiful.
Hailing from Kailua, Oahu, Mia is a two-time Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate finalist. Her poem entitled Courage is a call to action with a powerful message that asks us to stand for justice. Give a warm welcome to Mia.
My name is Mia Peterson. I'm in 10th grade at Punahou School, and I'm inspired by the challenges we face individually and together, which is why I'll be sharing a poem called Courage. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Justice for all. Justice for all, we say, monotone voices joining millions in the pledge we speak to reassure and remember our history, the teetering Jenga tower of events missing Black and queer and female and other stories like leaves blown away in a constantly drifting, constantly ignorant wind. Justice for all. Justice for all. Justice for George Floyd, murdered for nothing but a counterfeit bill and the color of his skin. Justice for Rosalind Franklin, credit lost because of her gender. Justice for Ahmaud Arbery, shot dead for fitting a profile. Justice for Ukraine, children's ears ringing with sirens and fire over one man's declaration. Justice for the climate, for the thousands upon thousands of tree trunks shattered in our hands. Justice, impossible justice, for the world we live in. The world we love in. I want to scream until my throat's wrung raw, till tears trickle in slow, steady streams down my cheeks, so I can feel the pain of the world and the weight so many carry so effortlessly. I want to raise my fist with those who need power and mourn with those who are lost and have lost. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the suffering we've withstood, the back-breaking, soul-crushing strength it takes to keep going. I pledge allegiance to the people who take a stand and who sacrifice. I pledge allegiance to those whose hearts are brave enough to break the pillars of what we call history and let the buds of real truth bloom. I pledge allegiance to the people.
For over a decade, the Merwin Conservancy has served the island of Maui as an ecological and artistic powerhouse and sanctuary in celebration of the legacy, life, and mission of two-time Pulitzer Prize winner W.S. Merwin. It is our honor to share this space with leaders committed to the arts. Please give a special welcome to Sarah Tekula, Merwin Conservancy's Director of Programs and Communications.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Sarah Tekula, and I have the great honor of working with the Merwin Conservancy, a nonprofit arts and ecology organization here on Maui that was founded by U.S. Poet Laureate W.S. Merwin and his wife Paula. William bought a piece of degraded land in haiku in 1977, and over the years, in addition to writing poetry and translation, he worked just to restore the land daily and was an activist here on the island. His land is now a flourishing sanctuary of rare and endangered palms from right here in Hawaii and from all over the tropics. In addition to caring for this place, our organization creates opportunities for all who are inspired by W.S. Merwin's cultivation of language and land to translate his legacy in their own way. I've had the privilege of learning directly from William Merwin and from the many who knew him. I'd like to share a few nuggets of wisdom with you young poets of Hawaii in hopes that you'll take a piece of his legacy with you. First, see if you can make your life a ritual, a practice. William structured his days so that he had ample time for his meditation practice, his writing and translation practice, and his gardening practice. And he was careful to keep these areas of his life well balanced on a daily basis. Second, cultivate your capacity for imagination. When William was traveling the country as our 17th Poet Laureate, he often spoke about this theme. He said that the thing that makes humans truly special is not our intelligence, but rather our capacity for imagination. He spoke of imagination not only as a way to envision new possibilities and a catalyst for great creative works, but also as a way to feel empathy for others' lives, to be able to imagine what it must be like for animals on the brink of extinction, for people living in war zones, and for those less fortunate. Finally, be like a gardener in all areas of your life, not only the garden. He often spoke about the importance of cultivating attention, and also about the anxiety many of us feel about our planet in peril. And this quote feels like it holds a clue for us. He said, "When we have reached a point where our own kind is steadily destroying the rest of life on Earth, and some of us are anxious not to do that, our relation to the earth begins to be that of a gardener to a garden." This is a man who didn't preach often. He practiced his concerns right at home where he lived, on the land, in his community, and in his writing. And he encouraged others to do the same. I'll never forget when I had an opportunity to bring our summer intern, a young poet and college student from Mississippi, to meet W.S. Merwin in 2018, about a year before he passed away. She wanted to ask him for advice because she was inspired to write about some of the darker sides of her home state's past and was meeting resistance from her advisors. I'll never forget how William listened carefully, and I'll never forget the conviction that came over him when he offered her advice. "You do what moves you," he said to her, pointing his finger. I feel strongly that if W.S. Merwin was here, he would encourage you to do what uniquely moves you, no matter what others might think. In closing, I'll share a poem of his written in the early 70s, which conveys the conjuring work that poets do and the possibility of the words that might come next. The unwritten. Inside this pencil crouch words that have never been written, never been spoken, never been taught. They're hiding. They're awake in there, dark in the dark, hearing us, but they won't come out. Not for love, not for time, not for fire. Even when the dark has worn away, they'll still be there, hiding in the air. Multitudes in days to come may walk through them, breathe them, be none the wiser. What script can it be that they won't unroll? In what language? Would I recognize it? Would I be able to follow it? To make out the real names of everything? Maybe there aren't many. It could be there's only one word. And it's all we need. It's here in this pencil. Every pencil in the world is like this. Mahalo.
Our next poet hails from Oahu and writes a breathtaking ode to her matriarchal lineage, a dichotomy of what it means to be daughter and woman, of beauty, bloodline, and birthright. Please welcome Nicole.
My name is Nicole Dao. I am in 11th grade at Punahou School, and I'm inspired by all the mothers in my life. This poem is, in part, for all of them. To various nations. My great-grandmother, a doctor, attends to the nationalist army captain's wife, who tells her to flee, take your family, and run. She says, divide my body into two parts, where the yellow river cleaves over my breasts, stretching down to my navel. And I shout, think of your children. Think of the separations, the way the river erodes the banks from which I was made, lowest sediment and a man's left rib. Mother, when the blood runs back in my nose and down my throat, it's more than just red. See, this is my lifeline, weightier than an ocean's salt water. When I was born, they cut the red thread connecting us, and I felt the world crash into existence, but you clung to me the same way a collapsing lung suffocates a word. This is my birthright. Bread broken for me the same way my feet aren't. You tell me this is how a woman walks. This is how a woman grows old. This is how a woman lets herself be made into a river. This is how you separate yourself by way of the river. This is what you call the war when you win. This is how you pronounce it when you lose. You tell me you have sloughed away your skin for me, for my sake. This is a privilege. And I say, no, this is a pain in the throat, an ache in the chest, and I tell you I know this pain, and I do. Do you see what I mean of making and undoing? Mother, there's been a birth. We are not ready.
Rachel Wagoner is a two-time Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate finalist. Her poem, Preservation of the Magic, is the answer to the question, what powers do our stories hold? Please welcome Rachel.
My name is Rachel Wagoner, and I am in 11th grade at Punahou School. I am inspired by many different authors, filmmakers, and other storytellers and their creations that have impacted the way I view the world. Preservation of the magic. You are told stories growing up, fairy tales of places long ago full of fancy, frivolous things, treasure, magic, creatures with wings, pages painted with such description that you wish you could just jump inside, close the cover, and remain pressed between the sheets, a human bookmark. Absorbing the words so that you can remember them, remember the tales, remember the glittering moss and the morning dew and the talking animals, remember the sparkle of the sun as it sets on the sea, remember the secrets of the forest with the hidden cottage behind the old pine tree. Remember the whisper of the wind or the rush of the water in the riverbed that led to a castle on the very top of a hill. Trying to remember the magic. So when the world becomes too much and you can't quite reach the words, you can escape into your mind. You can follow the trail that your younger self left you, like little pink tags tied around tree branches to keep you on track. You can remain in the comfort of the wandering paths that connect you to the far-off places, continue walking them to clear the ground of debris and foliage. You can choose to lose yourself in order to save yourself and preserve your access to the magic, rather than trying to face the darkness of the world without it.
Metaphors and imagery go hand in hand. Shea Noland, a two-time Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate finalist, has one poem brimming with both. Listen closely and catch the vapors. Here is Shea.
My name is Shea Noland. I'm in 12th grade at Punahou School, and I'm inspired by my family and friends. She once held hands like tree trunks that sprouted fresh fruit, had strawberry-stained lips, lemon-puckered breath, an itchy scalp and paper lashes, gardenias in her pores. Was the hour hand and the tides, had time to walk in songs that welled, found me old slippers and mugs to sip dust, told me I was beautiful, unlike her, kept secrets with her jade bracelets, locked our blood inside her skull. Once held weights around her heels, stones in her knees, a balloon in her vein, turned into a lake, lost her tongue. Has cloudy silverware and thickened windowsills, has leased her lung to dirt and spiders, left stale breadcrumbs and puddles, me on the floor, her beneath it, blind to the lilies, deaf to her name, has gone, is no longer, has become, is a tree trunk, sprouts fresh fruit.
Mira Dasgupta is the 2021 National Youth Poet Laureate. Hailing from New York City, Mira is an artist, activist, and intellectual with a talent for writing poetry and expressing herself through the practice of oral traditions. Please welcome Mira.
Explaining brown girl feminism to a white man on the E train. Brown girl feminism, a phrase that blisters tongues not keen on holding Asian spices, changes the name of this poem to a white man's lament in masala tears, but this rickshaw has no room for another man spread. Or the venti chai latte, he says, looks like you, masticate me like the cardamom in a pakora. Spit it out onto a paper plate only to sprinkle salt back into its diaspora. Makes it savory, pick ancestral bone from chicken curry, but when you swallow, let history be hookworm in a gut engorged by self-entitlement. Make it enough for you to tell me that I am caramel popped into working jaws, honey. I sizzle like mistake. Rise like steam off of the Bombay sidewalk. What is milk to chili pepper? All you seem to do is curdle in the marinade as I froth over kettle. Cleave origin from clavicle. Ascend like the smell of grandma's kitchen into drying linens. I am a borrowed taste buds. Voodoo queen in the cupboard. Girl born into a body pressure cooked by nature versus nurture. Tawa, sorry. I spill tea on your white privilege and slip too much meat off of his bones, but I thrive in culinary, which means no food waste, so I place him in a dusty cabinet elsewhere. Atop life, slick oil stains and cinnamon rolls. Some days, spooning powdered pieces back into trade recipe. He is but ingredient. Eternally searing in the heterogeny that is my mother's home style biryani. So I just wanted to say a few words whilst I still have the mic. I believe that art is truly a community revolution. And in that manner, all of us are vessels for revolution. Because I know that we often say that youth are our future, when in the reality, youth are our present moment. They are our current moment and are leading movements as we stand and as we see them now. Oftentimes, we say that we give people a voice, or a lot of people say that they're giving someone a voice. But I believe that it's spaces like these which allow us to utilize the voices that we were born with. Because these communities make us braver, and these spaces are the ones that we continue to move with throughout the rest of our lives. And in that way, we can change the world by changing each other and changing ourselves. Because it is through relearning and reforming that we can create the futures that all of us imagine through our poems.
In Kanaka Oiwi culture, concepts such as aloha aina, malama aina, and kapu aloha are key to understanding and nurturing the relationships that have sustained Native Pacific Islanders for over 3.5 millennia. In this next poem, Ke Aloha speaks to the value of living in Hawaii and taking stock in the balance of nature.
My name is Ke Aloha Kamkwich. I am in 9th grade at Punahou School, and I am inspired by spending time in nature. My life with the ocean. Flying home after school, I race to the beach. Sliding into the foamy waves, I go under and everything quiets. Muffled sounds drift through the water, and I long to stay there forever. As I surface, I squint into the amber sun before it slips behind the ko'olaus. At dawn, we jump on the boat. The ripples fan out on the glassy water as we set off. We look for birds to show the way. Dropping lines to troll, I see the wake sliced in two like a rooster's tail. The scream of the reel tells of a lively prospect as yet unseen. As shadows lengthen, I pull it in. Glittering scales flash in the golden sun. Everyone shouts and laughs. An ocean harvest to share with many. My band of brothers, fishermen all.
Since February, the MACC has hosted free weekly online youth poetry workshops featuring some of Hawaii's top spoken word artists. Michaela Cooper from Lokelani Middle School is a regular contributor and participant of these workshops. Her poem here discusses how recent events have revealed other issues that have affected the planet long before COVID. Please welcome Michaela.
My name is Michaela Cooper. I am in 7th grade at Lokelani Intermediate School, and I am inspired by Kathy Jetnell-Kajinder, perseverance, and truth. They all inspire me to keep going and to be real in the reality of our lives. That is why I wrote this poem called Growing Truths. Gifted and granted, just like normal necessities. 1 minute we have it, and 2021 takes advantage for weeks. We are ruining our earth every chance we get. Beat COVID, that's it. No one cares about the earth, global warming, or poverty. Everything disappears in our minds when we watch the news over and over, with the CDC showing us how to survive. 2 years later, we are starting to reunite and take back our lives, realizing how much we spread the lies. All hopes and dreams have been crushed and flushed. We are getting ready for a new year, a new redo. Let's make it better and do our parts over. With the correct way for once. The hatred, littering, lying, and stupidity have gotten past us before, but not this time. So listen when I say help. Our world is crying, it's not just a scream. Listen to me. Help our world before we get caught in our own mistakes. Our recklessness isn't helping. We shoot our world down, hoping it grows back, growing back like how we think species will magically do. It has come to animals not being able to walk on ice, and humans being treated like mosquitoes, where the first thought is to kill. Just stop the wrong, and let the ones who are right make the path for us to follow. Do your part and help the world out as much as you can. We only have one chance to correct the damage. Don't forget, this isn't a warning, it's a plea for help. Save the world before our mistakes cost any more lives.
Last year, the MACC became the first local organization in Hawaii to partner with the National Youth Poet Laureate program. One of last year's finalists, Corrin Williams from Stevenson Intermediate, is back once again to drop hot bars and wordplay. Please welcome Corrin Williams.
Yo, what up, Mac? My name is Corrin Williams. I am 12 years old. I am the 7th grade president at Stevenson Middle School. I am inspired by my dad because he's the reason I started writing in the first place. This poem is called Bars Be Like. It was a challenge I did with my dad. Hope you enjoy. My bars be like Monday night, they raw. They'll body slam your emotions, pile drive and pin hate. My bars be like Drake. It's all a part of God's plan for me to beat Z in a poetry slam. My bars be like BTS. Smooth like butter, cool shade stunner. Break it into your heart. I'm the one, ain't no other. All the girls are fans, even your mother. My bars be like the EST of poetry. The biggest, baddest, roughest, toughest. My bars be shining cause I'm a star. My bars be like the sea, full of life with waves of emotion. My bars are deep. My bars be like Randy Orton. Venomous viper that can strike out of nowhere. My bars be like a robbery. Got you putting your hands up. Love for me, you giving up. My bars be like Candyman, got you hooked. Say my name and I appear. My bars be like air, I'm here, there, and everywhere. My bars be like Derrick Henry, they will hit you. Stiff arm you, run you over. My bars be like Stone Cold, the SOB of poetry. Sharp, opinionated, brilliant. They will stun you, stomp a mud hole in you, walk it dry, and bring tears to your eyes. Why? Because the president said so. My bars be like an earthquake. They will shake you, crack your foundation, break you down, and make you listen. My bars be like the new day. They rock, they funny, and stampede all over the enemy. My bars be like Hawaiian hula dancing on pages of stories of my ancestors refusing to be forgotten. My bars be like wildin' out. They so fly, they'll make you turn up. They'll kick you out the classroom. My bars make you plead the fifth. You know you ain't stopping this. My bars be like frosted flakes. They're great. My bars be like the Hulk, incredible, powerful, unbelievable works of arts that will smash Z. My bars be like Roman Reigns. They're the tribal chief, the mouthpiece of poetry. They will Superman punch and spear you, making all of Hawaii and Z acknowledge me. My bars are the future of poetry. That's the piece.
Every year, youth poets ages 10 to 19 submit their original poetry for a chance to represent their hometown as the local, state, or regional Youth Poet Laureate. This year, Hawaii's youngest poet to apply to the YPL program was 10-year-old Viva Peroff from Honolulu, Oahu. Her poem is about family and the struggle to overcome. Please welcome Viva.
My name is Viva Peroff, and I am a 4th grader at Waikiki Elementary School on the island of Oahu. I'm inspired by my mother. She likes to read and write poetry. She encouraged me to take a risk and write down my own poetry, and I thought it was pretty fun. This is my poem called Always. She was always there by the riverbed, with her dusty creel laden with small fruit she had gathered, with desire to a decent meal that knocks. She was frequently jeered at, having the weight of poverty to handle. But she was always about, hoping to be noticed.
Our next poet is a very special guest who holds the distinct title of being the state of Hawaii's very first Youth Poet Laureate. Lua Bowman, crowned as last year's champion, has a poem today as a message for the ones who forgot and a warning for the ones who think they know. Her poem, titled I Hope You Know, addresses issues of identity, representation, and empowerment. Please welcome Lua.
I hope you know. I hope you know I am an undying pulse, choked in stifling darkness. My blackness is light. My blackness ripples against the wind. But your heinous words distorts the vision of my blackness until a blurred rendition remains. My limbs chained, my thoughts shackled. As I tremble, they hold me down locked behind your hate. My soul grows weary, my blackness grows fatigued. That much I have gleaned from its tearful silence. It's not always easy to turn to the other cheek, to suppress the feeling of your barbed words piercing my skin, or remembering the tears that tacitly down my face, cementing my repression. Tired of the social purgatory, I couldn't dilute my anger. Your comrades paint me as aggressive and hostile. You left me liable to collect and protect the dirt that you spilled, preventing me from freedom while maintaining your pollution. Restoration is not always found after apologies are given, but you have taught me that forgiveness made me free from my prison. Bondage by the pain you've caused me, I still can't stop guessing what you're up to. Like a foam of whispers, the slurs you utter into existence revisit me in my sleep. Such satiating slaughter, prying on every last bit of belligerent and strident radical thought I used to defend my humanity. But I know you forgot this. You forgot I belong to a community that has solidified the meaning of resistance and self-determination. You forgot, at the core of my identity, the spirit of defiance, anchored in an ongoing pursuit of freedom and liberation. You forgot I've learned to handle those with grace, precision, and ferocity that comes with being a descendant of those who have dealt with white supremacist nonsense for far too long. You forgot that I am the descendant of those who've waltzed the revolutionary symphonies, the harmonious truths of liberty, who've tasted it, who've saw it, and who bled it through their melanated hands. So while my melanin aches and sheds tears of blackness, I remember my melanin is more than my source of destruction. I remember it's more than my source of despair. I want to give a special thank you to the National Youth Poet Laureate Program. Last year, I was given the honor of being titled as Hawaii's Youth Poet Laureate. this served as a catalyst to the poet I am today and the work I am so passionate about that has resonated with so many others. And to have my work recognized by the National Youth Poet Laureate Program has been an honor that I will cherish forever. Just to give you a little perspective of my life about poetry, I first started poetry as a way to voice narratives and stories of the Black experience. As human beings, we go through many experiences and we're anxiously seeking catharsis or an outlet to channel our emotions. Poetry was an outlet for me to find my inner calm amongst all the pain from constantly defending my humanity from those who deny my liberation. When it comes to concepts such as justice and Black liberation, those things have to be thought up in order to envision it. Poetry gives us the permission we need to find a solution that does not sell us short. Poetry artistically theorizes freedom and enables us to take charge of our image and our Black identity as we reclaim ourselves as fully human in this country. We write poetry to demand radical documentation, collaboration, and celebration. The National Youth Poet Laureate Program has taught me that poetry is a tool for liberation, to raise critical consciousness, and to reimagine justice in our society. Through the Youth Poet Laureate Program, I will continue my efforts to shape and share in discussions, discourse, and decisions that directly involve my community. My words are part of the work to fight against injustice and to shape the world. I utilize poetry to soothe my heart, the aches from the lives that were unjustly lost, and to invigorate my spirit to keep fighting for liberty. My Black words are and always will be my lifeline. Thank you.
All right, gang, here we go. We're about to name tonight's finalists. But first, we would like to recognize 3 poets from this crowd. The first is Junior Laureate participant Michaela Cooper. Make some noise for Michaela. Our second Junior Laureate participant is Corrin Williams. And our third Junior Laureate participant, all the way from Waikiki, make some noise for Viva Peroff. And Hawaii, these are your 3 Junior Laureate participants. Make some noise for them one more time, please. All right, thank you, gang. Okay, our next 5 finalists are Shea Noland. Make some noise for Shea. Show some love to Rachel Wagoner. Put your hands together for Mika Hiroy. Show some love to Corrin Kono. And one of our last finalists, make some noise for Esther Chan. And Hawaii, these are your 5 finalists. Thank you very much. Make some noise. And your top 5 finalists. First to be recognized will be Nicole Dao. Make some noise for Nicole. Next is Mia Peterson. Make some noise for Mia Peterson, please. And in our top 3, make some noise for Elle Kensington Ono. And this year's runner-up, Hawaii State Youth Poet Laureate, make some noise for Kalihua Fung. Which means this year's Hawaii State Youth Poet Laureate champion is Kalihua Fung. Make some noise for Kalihua! So. On behalf of the Maui Arts and Cultural Center, we'd like to thank you for joining us for tonight's program. Join us next year for the 2023 Youth Poet Laureate program. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Woo, woo!